There's a movement brewing, and that movement is the MeTotal lifestyle.
It centers around you keeping your sense of self intact and in gaining clarity of purpose as you age. I'm Carrie.
I'm Joe.
I'm JM.
And we're on a mission to show you how to enjoy friends, fellowship, and life without substance dependence.
It's time to discover how you can begin living a MeTotal lifestyle.
Right here on the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Let's go. Hey everybody, JM here from the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Today was the first day I did a solo show. For some scheduling reasons, ended up just being me and my guy, Jack Burke. What a great conversation we had. Hoping that I didn't totally screw the pooch as the individual interviewer, but felt like the conversation was a great one. Jack is a really interesting story, much younger guy than me, of trial, tribulation, and ultimately finding a path to sobriety here for the last 6 months or so. Met him in Virginia right when we moved from DC. He was one of the main trainers at a gym that I was going to, and such a great leader of men and women, such incredible interpersonal skills and just connectedness in the way that he went about his business and his job. We've stayed in touch through a bunch of different channels, not the least of which social media and this show over the last probably 15, 18 months. And just really enjoyed talking to him about his path, what he's up to these days, and just the clarity and full sense of himself that he's found over these last 6 months of not drinking as a core component to his success and really the future that he has with his wife and his kids. So I hope you enjoy this show. I hope I get to do a few more in this fashion so I can improve on the lessons I learned today. But in the meantime, be well, and let's continue to try to live this MeTotal life. Much love from here. All right, everybody, back to the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Super excited today. First time I've done this solo, so hopefully this doesn't go too bad. I'm usually leaning on my boys to help with the interviews and the content, but today it's all on me. Or it's all on Jack and I guess. But I'm excited to sort of give this a go at being a one-on-one interviewer, and I couldn't be happier to be doing this with my buddy Jack Burke. Jack and I have known each other probably 2020, since that's when I moved from DC to Virginia. At the time, he was working at a fitness studio that I used to get after hardcore with different color variations for how you're doing. We won't go too far into what that is, but really just loved him as a human and as a coach, and certainly felt motivated by his style of training, even in a group environment. And since he's been doing a bunch of other stuff, but not the least of which the relationship with alcohol has shifted for him over the last several months too, which obviously ties into our show. But anyways, Jack Burke, man, nice to have you on FUZZEE'ish podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, and just have been absolutely loving what you guys are putting out. So
that's awesome, man.
You shot low on this one, but truly an honor to be here.
Oh, dude, that's nice of you to say. But I also appreciate your shirt today.
Yes, sir.
It shows one of the national championships the Georgia Bulldogs won for the last couple of years. As you know, we share a passion for the dogs. So very nice of you to wear that shirt. I'm wearing my royal blue or close to royal blue, Kelly, and some green coast to coast because my high school in Reston, lots of my friends from Reston actually listen to the show, so I'll give this a shout out.
Very cool.
High school basketball team from South Lakes High School is in the state semifinals tonight at Westfields, and so my sons and I have been huge fans of theirs the last few years, and have been to the last few games, and are excited to be in the building tonight. So we're rocking our blue so that we fit in with our friends from the South Lake Seahawks.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
I've been seeing your guys going to those games. It looks like a ton of fun.
Yeah, dude. It's it's an interesting segue, right? Like, since I've known you, we've become dads, or at least deeper into being dads, right?
Yeah, man.
Like, I set up some of the fitness stuff. I didn't even mention golf. Golf is another thing that we're passionate about. This is a Grayson shirt, one of our golf brands that we love and enjoy. Give us the Jack Burke background, man. Start as young as you'd like.
Yeah,
it's cool
man.
To hear the backstory.
So born in Georgetown, DC. But then when I was pretty young, like 5, 6 years old, we moved to Atlanta. So
Okay.
hence the
Dogs.
Georgia love.
Yep.
And grew up down there before we moved back to the Northern Virginia area. Right around the time I was finishing up, I was middle of high school.
Yep.
Played lacrosse growing up and just always grew up around golf. So actually went to Marymount in Arlington and played both of those sports at the Division III level, which was very low key but a ton of fun and close to home, which was great. I studied business there on more so just to really be able to play those two sports because that was just kind of the easier route of the academic side. And then, it's been, I'm 32 now and I've definitely worn a couple different hats.
Young buck, man.
Man, it doesn't feel that way always. So my first job was in accounting and
for the
really just, I don't sit very well. So that wasn't going to be a long-term thing for me. Just kind of mess with, my whole personality and I need to be moving. So that's, at the time I was getting into fitness and I got into fitness, which has been so many different avenues, working for myself to working for different gyms with fun names and colors and working, at country club levels and everything in between, which was great in my 20s. But as I, got married and started having kids, those crazy hours just weren't really making sense for me anymore. And I don't think they were making sense for a while, but I still kind of pushed on through. So now I've switched to golf as more of a full-time position. I work for a company called Golf Tech, but I also do a lot of just one-on-one stuff. And I do a lot of fitness just still on the side. I love it. I never wanted to give it up, but now that's just kind of a fun little side hustle to it all. And, married, I got 3 kids, under 4 years old.
Crazy, man.
So back to back with that, almost like the Georgia Bulldogs went.
Should have been, man. They got screwed.
And,
that's different.
And that's where I am, as far as.
So let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
So first off, I going back to my South Lake Seahawks, I was a decent high school athlete, played 3 sports, had lots of opportunities to play similar D3 baseball and football, decided to go, to a bigger school in Virginia, went to James Madison and didn't play sports. And, there are times that I definitely, especially right now when I watch my kids playing sports and I go to these games with them and just remember the camaraderie of that, I regret not having those 4 more years. So good on you for doing that. I think, a lot of people in my position that maybe had an opportunity for that didn't do it and regret it now. That's so super cool. And actually my kid's babysitter right now who comes over for a few hours in the afternoon, she's a soccer player at Marymount. So
shout out
Saints. Shout out to the Saints. Yeah, exactly. So that's good stuff. Going back to let's talk about, so you come back to Virginia, you go to college, you get your degrees, you suck at accounting or suck at sitting. So you don't do accounting. And then you get into this world of fitness. And it's interesting because I've met a lot of people with similar sort of aspirations in fitness, particularly from going to those more group oriented classes and meeting people like you. And there are some that I know that have sort of gone up within the brands that they work for and have even relocated into bigger jobs. But more of them are like you, where they're at a certain brand, they do it for a certain amount of time, then there's an opportunity at a country club or something like that, and they'll go do that for a little bit. Then they're dabbling in sort of personal. What's the reason for sort of the consistent kind of churn in that world? And talk about the struggle of that, especially as somebody who ultimately meets your wife at some point in that story and then wants to have a family.
Right. Yeah, man. It's a grind for sure. It's definitely, piecing this puzzle together because very few opportunities are going to give you, set hours per week. Right. And it's just about making ends meet. And if you get at one spot, you can work, every other day from, the first X amount of classes and stuff. So it's just this puzzle that keeps evolving of, oh, I got to fill in my Thursday evenings because I just lost a client, or I switched my schedule over here. So you blink and 6-12 months go by and you've changed hats a couple times within the same industry. It's not a big hat to change, but it's just like, you got to keep rolling with the punches and making it work. And it leads to a ton of burnout for some folks. Like, I can't believe I'm still doing it. Like, that's what we were joking a second ago. Like, I don't feel 32. Like, you train like that for a long time in the mornings, like getting out of place at 4:30 to open a door at 5 for folks. You do that Monday to Friday, man, it catches up.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's this constant just puzzle that you just got to keep moving around.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been talking. So we've been talking a lot as a group, both in this setting as well as the things that we're kind of chasing in the periphery of FUZZEE'ish, about that, not necessarily in the fitness world, but more generally just career, right? And it's so hard, especially these days, when it's so easy to see what the perfect scenario is, because that's what everybody wants to portray themselves as in the various channels that they're able to. But the reality is most, if not all, are not in a perfect scenario. And so it's so hard to be in this situation where you're not necessarily realizing the impact of the investment that you're making, either in time or effort, or, to your point, sort of spinning plates and figuring out your schedule and trying to make ends meet. You want to be there, and it takes time to get there. And like you said, it's a year later and you're like, shit, man, at least I made it. What would you say to people that are out there that are, wanting to see immediate gratification in whatever sphere of life, and particularly professionally, that aren't immediately, and have the immediate thought is, I better shift into something else, or maybe I should go try to do this instead, because that's where I'm going to make all the money or all the impact, or I'm going to be most successful? What do you say to those people? You've been through that for 10 years, probably. What would be your lessons learned, and what you would share to the folks that are still trying to kind of find that North Star, which it seems like you're starting to really hone in on?
Yeah. And if I could go back and tell my younger self something, it'd be just pause for a second and just kind of work backwards. Think just, hey, what are my real priorities? What matters to me? And work from there, because what happens is we're so focused on the immediate, and then we just adjust, and all these just micro happenings, and we can just blink and we rolled with that wave. And if we just would have done the decisions tied to that conversation we had, hey, here are my priorities, right? And that, to me now, my priorities are time and a schedule. So I had to find something that allowed me to do that. And if that is not in the fitness area, it's not in the fitness area, and it's seeing something through, right? I see where I'm at now as this platform to build on, whereas in that stage I was at, it was the fixing the now. I have to succeed right now. I have to make it right now, and that's just it. That doesn't happen. That's not it.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
so
an adage of marathon, not a sprint, right?
It couldn't have said it better, right? And once you realize that, like, I'm glad I realized it at 32, but I wish I would have caught that sooner. Of, hey man, this is like, you're not supposed to have it all figured out right now, right? Buckle up.
Yeah. What do you think that? What do you? So not to interrupt, because I want to just quickly even a deep. Like, what do you think was if you look back at that person 10 years ago, and you're talking to that, what was it that was the main driver for wanting that immediate satisfaction, or that immediate success, or maybe that, $10,000 more a year, or whatever, whatever it was that was driving you at the time?
It's a lot of insecurity, right? It was just a ton of me not knowing me, and not taking the time to find out. And I let circumstances kind of define me instead of me defining me. So I was 22, and I wanted what every 22-year-old wants. I want, freedom and a couple bucks. And I was just kind of going wherever that led to right then, without really thinking it through.
What did social life look like then? Like what were you doing outside the job when you had to wake up that fucking early too? I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
I was pounding in my 20s, man. I was working till I was getting up early, working 7, 8, 9 hours till like 2, 3 in the afternoon, and I go to the bar.
Yeah.
Right. And day was over. So, hey, who's off? Who wants to hang out? I got time. I got money. I don't have kids or responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's go spend $50 and call it a good day and wake up, pass out early and repeat.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I was maybe a little late. I was starting a little later and ending a little later.
Yeah.
But similar pattern for sure at that age.
I made it work because I knew I had to get up early. So started earlier, right?
Mm-hmm. So when you think about that and you think about the transition to now, talk about what was when you look back, what was the defining moment? And I have a thesis of what it is, but like what changed in your life that sort of, and obviously it's going to lead to your kids now being this important aspect or maybe priority number one. Right. When and where did it change? And let's hear a little bit about that story.
I mean, it's right about that 6-month mark now, and it was just late last fall. I don't have the date, but it was my wife, man.
Yeah.
It was she. I mean, she's such a rock star, and never put the press on me. She accepted me for who I was and all that stuff, but it just got to this point of like, I see this.
So you're in this, what I like to consider just like the same day over and over and over. You're going to work, you're going to the bar, you're waking up, you're doing it again. You have no real priorities. You probably have a friend or two on the side, or maybe a serious girlfriend for some stage of period, but then the priorities get back to just kind of doing what you're doing. When did that adjust? So like, when did you meet your wife, or if that was the moment, or when did the priorities really shift from that 20s mindset to at least heading in a different direction?
Yeah. So in DC, we were working at the same gym in DC when I met my wife.
Which one? Where?
Tenleytown.
Okay. Tenleytown. I was deeper Capitol Hill, sort of northeast, but probably there same time.
We would have smoked you guys.
Yeah, you guys are in the fancy part.
But she was my boss there.
Okay.
She was one of the bosses, and I just started there, and I was like, I just got to shoot my shot.
Got to.
Yeah, if you got
to, every shot you don't take. Yep.
Right.
All of it. Yeah.
So I asked her out, and like when I was like a week into working there, and she said,
"What year is this?"
2017.
2017. All right. And I saw 1,000 Days Married recently. Maybe
today.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we're celebrating that.
Yes.
Congrats on 1,000 days. And what's your wife's name again? It starts with
Amanda.
Amanda. All right. Happy 1,000 days to Amanda. All right. So it's 2017. Amanda's your hot boss at the gym, and you're like, fuck, I'm going to give it a shot. And then, so what happens?
We go out, best date of all time. First, we still talk about our first date, Hunter's Head.
Where was it?
Hunter's Head out in towards like Percival, Middleburg area.
Let's go.
So it was her idea. She took me out, is what she said.
Mature, older, it's an older woman, or okay, perfect. I like it.
A couple years older, a couple inches taller too. I always liked them.
I remember you mentioning that before. I love that. Okay, man. You got to have confidence. It's all good.
Shot my shot. It worked.
Yeah.
So we started dating and never looked back, man. She's been my everything since.
Wow. So that was 2017. So 7 years. I mean, dude, think about that, right? Like you're, and I have a similar story. It wasn't as cool. I didn't shoot my shot. And in fact, it wasn't as clear. And I've told that story on this show, so I won't go back through it. Yeah. But it's interesting when you look back on it. And for me, man, we're talking like 15 years now, right? Like married since 2012. And when you say 32 and I'm almost 43, it's like, fuck, like I'm old, right? Like I'm like a wise guy in comparison to some degree, but it's interesting that you the way that you frame that you never looked back, right? because it's just like everything clicked, and it's probably not even exactly what you were thinking was going to happen. And I think that's interesting how similar that story is for so many, right? About their relationships to their significant other and their spouses. But what's interesting, man, is that, you know, a lot of people, and I read something yesterday, more than half it ends up not working out, even though it was great for 5 years, right? Or even some couple seeds on the side as part of that deal. You've made it through, and you're still, dude, you're gleaming. You're like red talking about her this many years later, which is so cool. And so many people are looking for in their own relationships. What has kept that fabric so tight? Like what about it has made you feel still so exuberant about it this many years later? And obviously the kids are an easy answer. But,
kids are the easy one.
Yeah.
She was there through my late father's battle with cancer.
Okay.
And that was a long 4 or 5 year stretch. She met me when he had kind of just started with that, and he passed in 2020. And that was a long dark road for me and my family. But what grew through that with my wife was just this, hey, this is the stuff that matters, right? This is, and you're here for me, like that. You're my family, like that's how you act. So she was my rock and everything for that. She was there and still is for me through all that stuff. And that was when I know, like, hey, like, you know, my dad passed away and he was 60 years old, like life's short. So yeah, I want someone that loves me like that. And we just, you know, and now with kids, you know, my 2 older boys, one's about to be 4, one's about to be 3, are both on the autism spectrum. We're kind of navigating that scale right now. And that's not easy, man. That's tough stuff, but it's, you know, we're laughing right through it. We got each other and we're working it. So like, you know, through that stuff, you're around people that remind you of what really matters and get you through it, and you get them through it, and you make it a positive, because life's always gonna be hard. Anyone can tell you a story of life being difficult. It's just how you tackle it. So that's her for me.
I appreciate, I unfortunately have too many friends who have lost their parents early to cancer. It's such a terrible fucking disease, and there's so many things that we could probably talk at length about, but I'm really sorry to hear that. I think I did know that, and so I appreciate you sharing, but that's just such a drag, and something that hopefully, you know, as technology improves, less and less people have to go through that, because I can just only imagine. And I have my own kids now talking to me about death in a way that makes it so tangible, the loss that it would be for them. Right. I've got 2 sons, and I can, and my 6-year-old is already talking to me in a way that makes me able to quantify the loss it was for you. And so I can just,
it's terrifying.
I can't imagine. Yeah, no, it is. And it's just so sad. And my dad, thankfully, he had a really bad battle with Guillain-Barré a few years ago, super scary. And, you know, he was like an inch away from the ventilator, which probably would have been the end. And it unfortunately got better and didn't end up getting vented. And now he's, you know, probably 80% of what he was, which is crazy. And he's 71 years old. It's kind of the opposite version, but like the reality of even just those, like just the feeling of that, I can totally appreciate. And so appreciate you sharing that. The other aspect of the kids thing, you know, similar to the tech, like the nice thing about the challenges on the kid front is that the world understands that so much better now, right? My dad's brother is now 60 some years old, and he is, you know, full on savant autistic, and they didn't know what in the fuck it was when he was born. Right. My grandmother was, my grandmother was like one of the people in like the 1970s and 80s that was trying to get momentum around this thing that ultimately turned into Autism Speaks. And they were like involved in the Rain Man story and got to be part of that with Dustin Hoffman, which is
That's powerful stuff.
Cool, but also just like such an indication of the difference in the world from then till now,
Right.
And the ways that the world and even the system to some degree are making sure that there's enough emphasis and onus being put into folks like yourself to ensure that the best possible outcomes for everyone are available.
Oh yeah,
right, and supported.
It's come such a long way, and we're in nothing but the best hands. So
yeah.
No,
and the super cool thing is, in my world of technology, there are so many people in that frame that are the most successful because the ways that those beautiful minds work is there's so much to be said for that. Right. And there's so much success that can be had for people that might not necessarily have the same interpersonal skills, but they compute stuff at a different level than at least I can say that my brain does.
Humble me every day.
Yeah, exactly.
My 2-year-old is like stacking. I'm like, oh, okay. I can figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So exactly my point. Exactly. That's so cool. Well, so it's interesting. One of the other things that you and I have been connecting on is obviously our show is based around this idea of a different relationship with alcohol. And we kind of went around and around on what we were going to talk about. And each of us came from it from a different angle. Carrie was like a heavyweight, going to kill himself in a bunch of different down a bunch of different avenues and got completely sober. Joe was more of a health related reason. We call him the featherweight. I think you probably heard me say that before because he just said, and then I was somewhere in the middle. And it's interesting because like, I didn't necessarily feel like I had a problem, but my wife asked me, dude, when was the last time you didn't have a drink? And I had to go back and I was like into the 3rd month of not remembering a day I hadn't had a beer. And I realized like, shit, she's right. And it's interesting. I just recently read George W. Bush's memoir and his story is almost the exact same. It was his 40th birthday. They were at some place in Colorado and Laura Bush was like, George, when was the last time you didn't have a beer? And he was like, and I went through the week before, it was like poker night and that really nice bottle of bourbon that I drank 2 nights ago. And he's like, by the time I got to my 4th week, I realized, shit, this is an issue. And I told her I was never going to drink again. And of course, she was like, you're not going to. And then now, obviously, he's 75 or he's 35, 36, 40 years sober. And he talks about how he would have never made it to where he wanted to get to. He certainly would have been the president if he hadn't made that decision. So right. You and I were going back and forth. You mentioned it's been 6 months. You didn't tell me explicitly when that happened, which I won't take personally because I'm glad to hear that it's gone. It's been 6 months. Let's talk about that. So you're partying in your 20s, you get married, you got some obviously challenges with your dad that I'm sure hit close to home and still does. The bottle's a good outlet. You're working like crazy. You got to kind of chill out at night. I'm sure that's part. Let's talk about that story. What got you to that point? What sort of created that 6-month window for you?
Yeah. So, it did. It was. I'd have to go back more than 3 months, like you were saying. Like it was, and she, she never asked, but I didn't need her to. Right. I could see that question lurking. Like an elephant in the room, and it just hit this home point of another, it was never I'm leaving or it was never storming out, but I was having a couple drinks every day and it was this tension in the room. And I heard someone say who was close to me, they had stopped. And I was asking why, and he said it's just no longer served a purpose for me. And I don't know if it was how he said it or what, but it just hit me in that moment of this. It's not serving a purpose. And I had known it for a couple of years. I tried to stop a couple of years ago. I had addressed the elephant in the room, and my family was with me. My siblings and I are very close, and I was very open. My mom helped me through it. And the whole premise of this particular group, I'll leave nameless, but an awesome group of people is, hey, you can choose to get rid of it, or you can choose to learn how to control it. And for me in the moment, I was like, yeah, I'll just learn how to control it. Awesome. And really quickly learned that that's just not it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's an all or nothing scenario. And I kept coming back to it. And I was doing it at times I shouldn't be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a part of my day. And it just got to this tipping point of, hey man, you can have everything you want. It's right in front of you. It's just on the other side of this thing that's got to go. So I put it off for so long, and I'm a big believer, you know, raised Catholic, all that stuff, big believer in the Lord. And he's kept putting people in front of me, people like you, buddy, people that there's so many people around me that were doing this and getting rid of it and moving on. And yeah, it was, I definitely fell into it through my dad and all that stuff. And I definitely got dark, but I have this beautiful wife and these awesome kids that need me. And I was there, but I wasn't really there. And I was like, hey man, like if my dad could tell me one thing right now, it'd be shape up, buddy. So it just got
and
to
probably
this point.
is, and probably was, right? Yep.
100%. And again, like he was telling me that by putting people in front of me, all these signs right around me, this piece that I saw on folks. I'm a big people person, and I, you know me, I love commanding the room, and I love commanding conversation, but there were just, I could feel this with certain people around me, this little thing they had that I didn't have. And it wasn't money or it wasn't anything else. I have everything. It was this little bit of peace to them. Just like this, like that there wasn't this thing controlling them. Right. They were really at peace with themselves. And I was like, man, that just sounds good. And it just all built up to this point of, I'm over it. I'm done. Cold. You know, so I went full cold turkey. And my wife is constantly crediting like the work ethic part of it, like just, but to me it was just a decision, all or nothing, and I it's gone. So
dude, congratulations. I mean, people don't realize how hard that is, so congratulations. And what I can tell you is, especially at 6 months, it's going to start getting a lot easier. Like that's the thing you have to look for. Like you've made it through the most challenging time. Right. I think 6 months is like the number, actually. The first 3 months are the worst, but you still are thinking about it on a daily basis from 3 months to 6 months. And you're getting to a point now where it's not going to be so top of mind all the time. That happens different for people. But for me, by the time 6 months came around, you're thinking about, to your point, all the things that are now so much more clear to you in life. And oh my gosh, it's so much easier to get up in the morning, and you're starting to like get some momentum, and the flywheel's moving around all of the good things that are happening from that decision versus like, I got to make it to tomorrow. Right. Like I really want that drink. I got to get till tomorrow. So dude, congratulations. That's well,
I appreciate it, man. And what I'll say, you know, the first 6 months, obviously it was tough. Like that was such a part of my day, but when you get just a little bit of the eyes opening up and you see a little bit of clarity, like what I saw was all I needed to see, man. I saw my wife and kids and the life, not through that lens of being tipsy all the time. And I was like, dude, this is even better, man. Like this, because now she's happier and now they're going to be happier. And it's going to start snowballing, and it already has. So it's, you know, I just was it a specific thing that happened? Like, was there an event? Was there a trigger? Was it something your wife said to you? Was it the way your kid looked at you one day? Was it just a sort of? I woke up on the couch downstairs. One night after we'd had a little bit of a fight. Nothing groundbreaking, but just I was like,
I'm gonna crash on the couch. Yep, been there.
And I woke up in the middle of the night, man. I was like, for a second, I forgot how I got there.
Right.
And I was like, yo, I'm around my family and my kids. Like that's not the look. So it was, but it wasn't the first time. Right. So it just got to the point of like, it was disgust with myself. right? I was so over it. I was so done, and I wanted to be done for so long. But it got to that cherry on top of like, I can't keep going like this. And I'm gaining weight. I'm not happy with multiple aspects of my life. Like, and when I look to the problems in my life, the only thing was the bottle. That was the only, I knew if I got rid of you, it's all going to be better.
Isn't that crazy, man?
And I had known it for so long, and I get it. It's not, you don't just know it. Like, it's tough to get out of that, man. You can know you're done with it and not get rid of it. So it was a long battle, but it just got to this point of like, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah, dude, so many similarities in that. And I, those kinds of fights, and I'm going to sleep on the couch, or for me, like she would find beer cans. She would go through the trash to see if I had a beer or how many. And she would always say, so I would just start hiding them places that I would not expect her to find them. And every month for a long time, she would end up finding something, a beer can or a little bottle of vodka that I had hidden, or go in my golf bag or whatever. And what's interesting is, from a trust perspective, I wasn't lying to her but like, you create a situation where they don't trust you at all because you're hiding this thing that you're completely basically a slave to, whether you admit it or not. And it's what's wild for us on this show and talking to people is how many folks are willing to just say this is no big deal while they're literally a slave to it. And I still have that. That was me. Yeah.
And for so long, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have, people in my life still that I care a lot about, that like I'm trying to be a light for. Yeah. Right. So like one thing that I try really hard is not to be evangelical and to preach about sort of my thing. I don't talk about not being a drinker. I if somebody asks me, I'll certainly share kind of my story, and obviously they can tell I'm not drinking, but you have some people that actually end up being the ones that don't make it, that want to just broadcast, oh, I'm not drinking. I've made it a month. I've made it a few weeks. I'm not drinking anymore. Those are the ones that end up right back to it, because the reality is it's still that insecurity that you mentioned. Right. And it's the people like you that ultimately dig deep into their heart and understand, like, this shit has me by whatever part of your body you want to use as the example. And if I don't figure it out, it's never going to change. And that's how this whole idea of MeTotal for us started, right? Because the reality is you couldn't make this 6 months happen if you didn't get to a place where you were willing to change you. Doesn't matter what anybody says. And that's what the crazy part about all of this is, that there's so many different avenues that you can take to try to curb your addiction or try to, stop drinking. And some of them are faith-based. Some of them are scare tactic based. Some of them are lock you in a room for a while and just dry you out based. And they're all very different. And some of them work for some and some of them don't work for others. And the reality is none of them work for all. And that's what our whole thing is like, it's not 1 or 0. It's not you either do it or you don't do it. It's how do you have a different frame of the relationship that ultimately allows me to make this total change across your life. And the impact is incredible. And the things you're even mentioning, like the strength of your relationship with your wife, your kids, that's what comes from this. And it's these kinds of stories that make me realize how important this message is for so many people that don't even realize it yet.
I'm one of the ones that needed to hear it, man. You guys, I'm serious. Like, just all these little beacons right in front of me, and you guys were absolutely one of them, man. Like, I know you. Here's this guy doing it. Here's a guy with a family, with a job. He was on that path, and it was right in front of me. I can learn from him, right? All these people just to learn from and share with, and to what you're saying, there's no template for it. There's no perfect route to it. It's what works best for you, and how to align yourself with your priorities and all that good stuff, right? But folks like you guys, folks that have been put in my path to be these shining lights and guides to me, I'm just forever thankful for.
Man, it means the world. And the amount you'll now feel your life differently, or probably already am.
Oh my gosh.
You know, that's the thing that I've told this story a couple different times with the HR lady at my company. I was telling her about the fact that, and, you know, I don't know if you're comfortable to share. I use THC as sort of a govern off of alcohol, right? So I did dibble sort of on little bits of THC edibles to just take the edge off. So I didn't go cold turkey. I think you probably went cold turkey. I now am cold turkey, right? Like, so I'm caffeine only at this point, which is just crazy.
Don't ask me to give up the caffeine, man.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I if you had told me even 2 years ago, a year into not drinking, that I would be able to curb the THC side too, I would have said you're crazy. And now I have. And and
good for you,
so
bro.
yeah, so the HR lady at my job, I was telling her about this, and I was saying how, you know, it's so crazy how much you feel just everything. Like every connection is so much different. Every good thing is so much stronger. Every bad thing is more manageable, right? Every hard thing feels more, you know, you feel more of an ability to overcome. And she was like, yeah, you know, raw dog in life ain't easy.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, like hashtag raw dog in life ain't easy, because that pretty much sums it up. And it isn't. No. But it's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. And when I talk to a guy every week, and he says, this is how you're supposed to have to deal with your shit. Like that's what life is.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to have to deal with your shit.
So my take on the raw dog is not as great, which I might just, I'm going to put that in the rotation, but, old mentor of mine, fitness guy and a golf guy, but it was always, choose the hard choice. All right. Just keep it super simple, but in the weight room, you know, in every aspect of life. And now for me to what I'm picking up and putting in my hand, it's just choose the hard one, man. Like whatever's right in front of you, it's a pretty good shot. The harder choice is the one you should do. So just keep doing that. And every fork in the road, put that thinking cap on and just go that way, and don't overthink it, man. Like just keep leaning forward, keep doing what you got to do, but just keep choosing the hard choice. So that's been a big one for me.
I like that. I've never heard that. Keep choosing the hard choice is definitely a good one. And you know, you see lots of bullshit motivation out there these days. I'm sure you see a lot of it in the different frames that you look at, and you know, the hard work pays off, and you know, it's the people that work that can have the self-discipline that ultimately are successful, and all those sorts of things. And I subscribe to all of that, but the reality is all of those things frame back to choosing the hard way. And that can go personally, professionally, spiritually, all those things. And it all sort of compounds into at least a straighter path. And I think, and to frame it back into fitness for a second, it's all about consistency. It's not necessarily about the details. It's just about showing up. Right. And showing up's easier when you feel completely clear on your life and don't have those negative influences.
No, it's so easy. I look forward to the hard choices now, right? Like, my cup is just full, and I'm just rocking and rolling. So anything difficult my way, I'm looking at, and it's almost like a overconfidence to it of like, no, I got this, because I've already beaten the hard stuff in life, man. Like
totally, man. No, you have. I'm telling you, 6 months is a big deal.
And it's just great to know there's no going back to it. So I'm looking forward. I'm like, every day I'm just gonna get better. We're gonna get stronger, all this stuff. And it's funny, I've lost a ton of weight.
Yeah, you look good. I told you that when you came on the video. You look fit, man.
Well, I need new shirts. I got to button up to the top collar on everything now, because everything's hanging loose. I'm not usually a top button guy. But it's funny, man. People,
Keith Mitchell, man.
Right. Hey, George Bulldog. Let's go, man.
Yeah. Cashmere Keith. Shout out to that dude.
Right. I love that guy.
The best.
But I see these, I go a couple months without seeing someone, and they see me, and it's funny. Everyone says the same thing. Oh, you're wasting away. Like I'm losing weight.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I'm in fighting shape right now. What are you talking about?
Tip top,
like,
right?
Yeah. No, it's like that waste. No, I was wasting away. Right. I was wasting away with that habit and that extra
Yeah.
weight and all that junk, man, I'm fresh as ever right now. So it's,
I
that
went
just
to a
feels
meeting with
lighter.
Yeah, I fucking love that, and I agree with them. I agree with you. You look like you're in fighting weight, and
I
fit, and
appreciate
just
you.
healthy and fresh and all that stuff. I went to a meeting 2 weeks ago, and a woman that I work with, I hadn't seen her in a few years. She told me I looked like I was getting younger, and I was like, keep it going. Like I'll take all the affirmation.
It's good stuff.
That is my love language. I will take affirmation all day long. Don't get it twisted. I'm here for it. But if I could, and I'm still in the same place I was when I stopped, if I could just leave the Ben and Jerry's or the Jenny's or any of these fucking premium ice creams to the side, I could put off enough. But I said to my wife, gotta have something.
Right.
Gotta have something. Like, I don't really feel like having a shit diet for 310 days of the year to have like maybe a little bit more sculpted stomach. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all right.
Everything in moderation with that.
Gotta have something, right? So let's talk, like, we'll get out of here in a minute, but I want to talk about fitness and golf.
Yeah.
And the combination of now not drinking, right? So like the world as we think about drinking generally, there is definitely a moment in time right now about the way that alcohol is unhealthy, right? Like, I think people have always known it's not good for you, but all of a sudden the data and the sort of information on that is on blast, and people are taking notice. And people are taking notice for a lot of reasons, in my opinion, a couple of which is the data is so accessible. So you can kind of find the exact information that you want to find. So the people that want to find that a glass of wine is still good from every day, they can find it. The people that want to find out like how bad it is, they find it and they're like, fuck, that's really bad. I got to figure that out and sort through it. And the thing that most people, not you, because God bless you, had some power, some being in you more powerful than most, have other ways to take the edge off with cannabis, with even psilocybin in some cases. There's all these other ways that the data is now showing is healthier, which gives them an ability to take a step back from the bottle without having to necessarily go straight into raw dog in life, right? So with all that stuff in mind, when I think about fitness generally, most of the people that you surround it are usually drinkers too, right? Or have been. How much in your world of fitness is this a conversation point, and how much of like what the decisions that you've made even in the last 6 months are now a topic of conversation that you end up sharing or discussing, or people are asking you? What is that world like for you these days?
Yeah, it's definitely a topic all the time, man. I mean, people are coming up to me saying, "What's your secret?" Right? And it's I put that thing down. And it usually stops right there. And it's what's interesting is, I'm big on eye contact and all that stuff. And you can see who really who that hits with, or like, damn, that's me.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know exactly right away. Yep.
So and like you were saying, at no point am I getting on a podium and preaching this stuff, but people are saying, Jack, you look like you've lost some weight and you look great, man. Like, I'm like, hey, like I stopped drinking. And I picked up a water bottle. Like, I get
some coffee. Yeah.
Give me a second cup of coffee that day and keep it black. But I see pretty quickly who needs to hear that. And I've already had folks come up to me saying, "Hey man, how'd you do it?"
I'm on my path. Yep.
And I'm starting. And I thought I was going to have any effect. I know, man. I was just saying, like, I got to get this down for me and my family, but for me to be in front of 20, 30, 40 people at a time, for me to be someone locally that is known in a few groups, and for people to see that they are asking, and I think it's huge, and I need to say nothing, right? And hey, here's I think we're all saying too much sometimes to ourselves. And we're talking, you said it, the guy that says, "Oh, I'm done drinking," like, you're probably gonna get back to it. Right? Just keep your head down and move forward with it. But as far as past that, no one's really asked. Like you said, the information's out there. So as soon as I say it, they're not asking any more questions.
Anybody give you the hard time for making that decision? Like,
Yeah.
like friends, maybe
Yeah.
less on the fitness side. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a couple. And the ones I kind of saw coming from of, hey, we were in that dark place together, and right now what you're doing is you're bummed that I got out of it, kind of thing. So, and that's not a me thing, that's a you thing, right? Like that's you got to go find that if you want to go find it.
Yeah, we had a good guest right in the beginning of this, Jimmy from Umbrella, who talked about if somebody has a problem with your cup, they have a problem with their own cup.
Right.
And that has stuck with me. And
Yeah.
that has been that was prolific statement on this show when he said that, because it was like, oh, that's really true. And then ever since, and that's now, a year ago, every conversation where I feel like there's any pushback around it, like it's so clear to me, like
you see it.
Oh, dude. Yeah. It's like the reason you have a problem with this is because your problem is way worse than mine was. And
right.
So that's probably pretty challenging.
Yeah. And you're bummed.
And hard to work through.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Hard to sort out.
And hey, man, if I can help, let me know. But don't give me a hard time for filling my cup up.
So right. So all right, I'm gonna let you get out of here, but I want to talk about golf for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly the golfer that you are. But I got down to like in the 6s ish, and I didn't really play until after high school. Once I hung up baseball, college was when I wish I had started sooner. I'm glad my kids are able to play earlier, because the kids that are really good played from the kids. Even I say kids, the 45 to 70-year-old kids that I play golf with now, all started that are the best sticks. All started at an age where at 70. It's not even a thought in their brain. It's just what they've been doing for 70 years. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm still so mental over every golf ball, because I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, because I learned it in a part of my life where everything was fucking mental. Right. And so that's not the best place to start.
No.
Probably should come see you for a session or two and work some things out here as I've gotten more fit. But what's interesting is beer has always been a big part of golf, at least in the casual scene. And even, in the beginnings of golf, those guys were drinking on the tour as well. I mean, that was just like a thing. And it's interesting because there are plenty of people that I play golf with that still say they play better with swing lube, or they play better on some number of beers. And so I'm curious, as a guy who hit the bottle in places that you weren't supposed to and probably drank a fair amount while you played as well, what was that like? Giving it up, there had to have been very different, because the reality is your equilibrium is very different when you're completely sober than when you're drinking. So let's talk about what that transition looked like on the golf course.
Yeah. I play a lot better now. That's for sure. So the whole swing loop thing is they're saying, 100%. It's just easier after a couple beers to forget that 3-putt you mark down as a 2-putt. So that's the only thing that's changing out there. No one's getting better at golf. But yeah, man, the first time I went out after I stopped drinking, I was really nervous. Like texted my wife, I was like, hey, like, I'm just gonna have you on, like, we're just gonna talk through my round of golf, kind of thing. Just, hey, I'm out here first time. But it brought back, what I love about golf. It brought back the game. It brought back my focus of, I'm not out here socially to drink. If I'm out here socially, it's to enjoy whoever I'm with outside in nature and all that good stuff. But it connected me back to more of the game and I to what's been cool with all of it is golf, fitness, marriage, all of it. It's just it's discipline, right? You said it's the consistency, it's the discipline. So the discipline I feel on the course now, when I'm out there and I'm just completely focused and present, right? Which I'm just now a much more present person, is tenfold, right? I wish I was this type of golfer in college. Like I understand it more. I have way more control over every aspect of my game because I have more control over me and what's going on. And Bobby Jones said it. It's a game of 5 inches, and it's the 5 inches between your ears, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm crystal clear, and it does show in performance.
I love that. And I subscribe to that. And the coolest thing, and I want to ask you, do you also feel like the weight of something that's stressful? You're in a competitive game, you have a tough shot in front of you that used to sort of feel like this very visceral weight on you in your heart that obviously had a big impact on the swing, the move you're about to put on the ball.
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore. Like,
Oh man.
right? Like, even if you're not drinking that day, like that shit creates that level of anxiety and that level
tension
of stress.
and just inflammation, right? Physically and metaphorically, right? You're
And
just
mentally.
you're stressed out, you're inflamed. So
Yeah.
the feeling out there of swinging easy, swinging free, it's awesome, man.
Well, I will tell you, I haven't played a lot in the last year or so due to a lot of more work related stuff, but I've gotten just after it in the gym. So I'm as fit as I've been since high school, probably right now, like back to lifting, seeing somebody over at one of the gyms in Falls Church, which has been kind of perfect for me. I can't wait to get, like I was telling my wife, I've got my 50th birthday circled 3/31/31 as like a time where I will be done having to grind 9 to 5 in a way that I'll be able to actually play golf the way I want to.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is I'm going to be so much better than I ever was when I'm able to do that because of these changes, like all of these changes in life, and to put more onus on being stronger and more physical and all these things without directly tying it to how my swing speed is. Cause I'm not even worried about it at the moment.
Right.
It's going to be, I just can't wait. Like, it's this like exciting thing. And I'm going to play a little bit more this summer. So I'll get to see some of the fruits of the labor before 50. But like, I couldn't be more excited because I think all these things that you're saying are going to manifest into a better golfer and certainly having a better time.
It's on both those fronts. It's the five senses, right? If your five senses aren't dulled by something, right? Everything's going to be enhanced. If
the five senses aren't dulled, everything. I love that. Let's wrap it on that, man. If the five senses aren't dulled, everything's going to be enhanced, including your golf game, including your fitness, including your relationships with your wife and the people that you have to deal with on a client side or business side or professionally or personally. It doesn't matter. Like, life is a big relationship, man. And keeping those five senses intact is a big part of them being as enhanced as possible. That's fucking awesome. Well, Jack, dude, really appreciate it, man. This was awesome.
Was great, man.
Happy to
hour went by fast.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll keep you. We'll have to do a follow up with the guys and maybe figure out on-site, golf FUZZEE'ish field trip or something with Carrie. Carrie likes to play too. He's not very good, but he really enjoys it. So maybe we can get him around and we'll do that. But dude, in the meantime, congratulations. It's going to continue to get easier. Your stories and inspiration, and just really appreciate all the kind words as well. So thank you.
I appreciate you having me, man, and I appreciate you guys for your inspiration. So keep spreading that good work.
Yeah, brother. We appreciate you. All right, brother.